Over the last couple years, many great roguelikes were released, and in the summer of 2025, From Software released their own roguelike in the world of Elden Ring with Elden Ring Nightreign. And I just had to give it a try to find out if it's a good roguelike and if the roguelike concept even works inside a Souls game. So I tested it to its basic limits by doing all its achievements. Nightreign is a fast-paced 3-stage boss rush where you choose one of 8 characters to run around Limville to get your resources while surviving the Nightreign and its nightly bosses, getting a choice of 3 things after major enemies. With the explanation out the way, we enter the tutorial, find someone very familiar and die. And that twice.
Condemned, I welcome you to the Round Table Hold.
We wake up at the round table, learn about the story and enter the first expedition. There, we get through the demi-humans for the Night 1 and the Fell Omen for Night 2, before facing off against Gladius, the Beast of Night, whom we lose to in the run. As a reward, we get some relics which give us an extra effect and stat when equipped, and after equipping one for more strength we go again. This time we go alone, and on my journey I get the max amount of flasks, but I fall during the first night. I keep going alone and get a decent run, defeating a total of 10 bosses before meeting Gladius again. But in the end, the 3-headed dog was too much for me. So I went back into random squads, and immediately defeated Gladius on the next attempt. After some more story, Duchess joins the fray.
Lord yet lives. We'll slay this Night Lord yet.
I then went over to the jar merchant and got myself a frame to touch a phantom. Which brings us to the area from the intro to fight the Night Idol, whom after a couple of tries we defeated and unlocked Revenant, who later becomes the main. But next I decided to go for a solo run in the volcano to find its secret, and on the second day I entered the volcano and reached the bottom of it to fight the magma worm to unlock the secret and to upgrade to a legendary weapon. Within that run I also continued wider storyline and was able to proceed to the point where I get the vessel and equip it, which doesn't really matter since I swapped to Revenant, but I got an achievement for it. Whilst I was still getting used to Revenant, we survived a raid from the Fell Omen, and on day 2 of another run a plague of Phyloctuses appeared. And whilst the Executioner and I lost our runes in the castle, Aaron and I went out of his way to stop the plague and complete the sentient pest raid. Later this run we also reached level 15 before getting drowned by Maris. 8 failed attempts later we are getting grouped up with Fredo and Federican. The run starts normal, we clear the start camp and defeat the first couple bosses. Then the paths split. Fedder and I go to the Abductor Virgin whilst the one-pawn chocolate frog from the UK dies. To then leave the game, leaving me and Raider to defeat the knight, and we went for it. Just minutes later we had to get rid of August's bubble to then get upgrade material in the mines before destroying boss after boss after boss to fight Gnoster, Wisdom of Night. Fedder was fighting the Scorpion whilst I threw black fireballs at the morph until we defeated the boss. Taking Nightlord down I unlocked the dresser where you can get outfits for your characters. With doing the remembrances you also unlock one outfit per character, which is related to the story you learn in the remembrances. With this new outfit we joined Josh and John Bloodbomb to go all the way to Caligo the Ice Dragon, who legitimately takes us 10 minutes to slay, but we get there at the end. Ice Dragon dead and the mountaintop appears, and I blindly went on a solo run to find its secret. Running it up ignoring everything wasn't the best idea, but it worked out in the end and we got to the top. To continue the progress on the Night Lords we electrify Maris next, giving us more story and making the night aspect appear.
The onset of night.
The next run we were brave enough to go after the budget Libra, which took us a good amount of deaths and time, but we managed. Run continues fine and we reached Centaurus Fulgur, champion of Nightglow, and defeat him pretty cleanly. The next expedition starts as usual, clearing a couple of bosses the first day, reaching level 10 after the first night, and we enter the Rotten Forest on the second day after a quick stop in the castle. In the Rotten Forest we enter the Mark Castle to get the second mark to then go and find the secret of the Rotten Forest. As night 2 ends we achieve level 14 and enter the fight with the Gaping Jaw. With this draw he not only ate us for an attack boost but also ate my FPS in the second phase. But it didn't stop us from defeating him. That being the third Night Lord in the road to 4, Libra is next in line. After losing runs way earlier in the playthrough and fighting budget Libra a couple of times, I already know how to fight against him, which made it easier to make him the 4th Night Lord in the road to 4. With that, only the night aspect was left. With teammates leaving left and right, I started to get hope as soon as I scored up with people that stick to the end. And Dude and Azazel were just the people I was hoping for. So after a tough day 1, we turned day 2 in kind of a direct boss rush, going from boss to boss through the castle into the night of day 2. And now there he is. Final boss. We get through the first phase fairly quick, and entering the second phase we don't stop. Still dealing good damage, we finish the Night Lord. I get teleported to a round table and find a body, which I offer the Night Lord's rune, giving us the final cutscene. Back at the round table I get some new skins and buy the last vessel from the jar merchant. Besides a couple of side achievements, I had only one real goal left, and that is to defeat a Night Lord with every character. And I personally wanted to do it with the night aspect directly. With Wild I did his remembrance first, to force the Shrouded City to be there and to go after its secret, which I got after defeating Estelle. That also finished the achievement of visiting all shifting Earth locations. And on my winning Wilder run I was also able to find the Death Rite Burden in Everjail, getting me another achievement before defeating the boss as Wilder. On to the next character, Guardian. And my Guardian run was such an easy one that I was able to blow bubbles at the Night Lord. And after blowing bubbles, Iron Eye was next. Iron Eye is probably the easiest one to win, and yeah, it was the first try. But I also collected enough rare stuff for another achievement. Collecting the individual characters wins as the last one I'm missing. So on to the next one. After the first attempt crashing and the second one being terrible in the loot department, we ended up losing to greed. But third time is the charm. So going into day 2 I still had terrible luck, but Iron was nice enough to drop me a black knife for looting one myself to dual wield them as we go into the Night Lord. And with the high damage output we had, he fell to his knees in no time, bringing me to the bottom row of characters, beginning with Raider. Playing Raider turned into a walk in the park, just destroying everything with my holy anchor on the first run. And after skipping Revenant for obvious reasons, we come to Recluse, the mage of the cast. The third was a fairly easy run as well, since I knew at this point how to dodge his attacks and letting me freely use my spells as he was focusing someone else, led to it being a first try with her as well. Now on to the last one on the list. It took me some runs to understand his mechanics, but realistically it didn't even matter since you can't really use it in a 3v1. But with a legendary Rivers of Blood thanks to the Volcano and Jojo and John as my group, the Night Lord was no problem, resulting in a final victory I needed for all the achievements. Now that I have achieved everything and have done all the enhanced bosses and storylines of the characters, we come back to the question, is Elden Ring Nightreign a good roguelike? Honestly, I don't know. It kinda feels like I'm playing a randomizer, which opens the question, is a randomizer a roguelike, and theoretically, kinda. At least if you think about the different seed mechanics. Anyways, it's a good game. With the updates and the announced DLC, it might become even a great roguelike. So, the future for Elden Ring Nightreign is a bright one. Okay, I have to redo this part. Since I wrapped up all the achievements, 2 major updates have released. The Everdark, with harder versions of existing bosses, and the Deep of Night. With Everdark giving us the bosses starting in the original second phase and adding a third phase, and the later update being a mode that steadily ramps up in difficulty as you keep winning, introducing new relics and weapon effects. On top of that, the Night Lord being unknown at the start of each expedition forces you to equip more versatile relics and adapt on the fly, giving the mode a distinctly roguelike feel. That said, the biggest drawback is the repetition. The Night Boss rotation quickly starts to feel repetitive compared to other roguelikes. And I'm not talking about the Night 3 final boss. That part is fine, but the overall structure of Night 1 and Night 2 bosses lacks variety. Games like Hades also reuse bosses, the 3 variants of the Furies and the Hydra, and also the same duo fight in Elysium. But the main goal there, at least for me, was pushing forward for more story. But here, the narrative drive is missing, or at least not that strong, which would make it less appealing for pure roguelike fans who came from Hades or Binding of Isaac. Still, if you are a Souls fan, Elden Ring Nightreign is absolutely worth checking out. The updates keep improving the experience, and with the upcoming DLCs, there's a good chance it will evolve into a truly great roguelike.